Hey guys, my name is Cody and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be showing you the house that we just had to unfortunately evict our tenants from. And stay tuned to the end of the video where I'm going to share with you the 5 biggest lessons that I've learned in managing rental properties and making sure that we set ourselves up for success so we have the least amount of experiences like this one in this video. Guys, if you have not already, help me out with this YouTube algorithm. You see it right there below. Hit the subscribe button, comment, let me know if you love the video, if you hate the video, either way, let me know. Like it. All right, let's get into it. So one thing really fast, I'm gonna have it cut over to where Pace, my business partner, actually walked through this property with the constable when the tenants were getting evicted, so you can check that out.
Constable's office, anybody here?
Let's get into it. So let's take a look and see. This is the first time that I've actually been in the home since we've had to get them out of it. And one of the first things that I did notice was, if you take a look here, it looks like they were smoking marijuana in our house here. And look guys, I don't care if people smoke weed, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing. But I mean, don't smoke it in my house, you know, you can go out back and smoke it. We have a strict no smoking policy in our properties, but, you know, one of many things that this tenant was doing wrong. So one of the things, guys, is that we do have in place is a great team that helps us with the management of the property and the construction and the repairs and all the things like that. So, you know, dealing with situations like this isn't ever fun to deal with. But you know, one of the things that I'm most grateful for is that we do have a great team that allows me to not have to usually go to our properties and deal with situations like this. All right, so let's jump into those 5 things that I've learned since owning and dealing with some of the management of the rental properties. So as we're looking at some of the damage that, you know, these tenants have caused to the property, honestly, it's not really that bad. It's just a lot of trash, a lot of, you know, mess that we just have to get, you know, thrown out of the house, and then to be able to get it cleaned up after that. But number 1 is going to be keeping your standards with the tenant that you're going to be getting into place. So what do I mean by that? So one of the standards for us here in the state of Arizona, it's not a state rule, but it's just for our Arizona rentals, is we require that whatever tenant is moving into our property, that they pay 3 times that they make 3 times the monthly rent. So for example, if the rent is $2,000 a month, we want to make sure that tenant is making at least $6,000 a month so that we know that they can afford it even if some uh-ohs happen in life and some other expenses come up. Because we know that if the tenant is barely getting by to be able to pay the rent, that's going to put us in a bad situation if they can't afford the rent, obviously. And I would say one of the lessons that I learned from that first tip there is whenever we have put ourselves in a spot where we, you know, bend for a tenant because they tell us this magical story about how hard their life has been or their situation, and we're like, well, they make, you know, 2 times the rent, so, you know, we feel bad for the people, let's move them in. Every single time we've done that, we end up with a bad situation. So instead, we just stick to our rules, and if they just don't fit the rules, they're just not a good fit for us. There's going to be another property owner that would be a better fit for them, but it's just not for us. All right, so number 2 is going to be having a proper move-in, move-out checklist. So, you know, as I'm looking at, you know, this particular property, you know, you'll notice some things that need to be fixed, some things that are damaged within the house. Not too bad, but just little things like, you know, the drywall here, just little holes in the wall that happen as people are living in the property. But part of that is having really good move-in, move-out checklists, because here's the thing. When you move somebody into your property, and we went through this and did this wrong, we would not do a move-in checklist. So they would move in and we're like, hey, are you guys happy? Is everything good? And they're like, yeah, everything's great. A month later, 3 weeks later, oh, this doesn't work the way we want it to. Oh, that we're unhappy with this, we're unhappy with that. Here's the thing. If you set that up at the beginning, having a good move-in checklist that they sign off that, hey, everything is good, I'm happy, everything in the house is in working order, and the few things that maybe weren't in working order we took care of and made sure promptly that they were happy and they were repaired. Then you set yourself up that, hey, we did a move-in, move-out checklist, and at the move-in, we did those repairs, these other things that came up, those are on you because you broke the appliance, you put a hole in the wall, or something else that wasn't functioning in the property. So number 3 actually goes kind of hand in hand with that move-in, move-out checklist, but this is really about setting a better agreement with the tenants up front. And what that agreement is for us is that whatever repair needs to be done at the property, the first $100 is paid by the tenant. Because here's what happens, is if something little breaks, or they've clogged their toilet, or they have whatever issue happen in the property, they're going to be calling you for every $25, $50, $75 repair. So if you put it on them that, hey, you're going to be responsible for that first $100, then anything over $100 we will pay for on top of that for items that we're warranting in the property to be taken care of. So what that does for you is it sets you up to not get pinged every single time they clog their toilet, and not get pinged every single time that they stub their big toe and they want to complain to you about something in the property. It's just going to prompt them that they need to go figure it out and take care of it. Alright, so number 4. This is part of your job as a landlord, this is part of your job as an owner, and this is something that we take seriously on our end, is taking care of your resident that's living in the property. I don't really like calling them tenants. I prefer calling them the residents that are living in our property, and that we want to respect them, but we expect that mutual respect back. So, with this section, or with this particular point, it's important that you as the landlord take care of those issues in a timely manner. So, for example, if something is broken and they just moved into the property, fixing that within a reasonable amount of time, like within a couple days, getting something scheduled, getting somebody out there to fix something. Because what does that show to your resident of your property? If they have something broken and it takes you 2, 3, 4 weeks to actually get it fixed, it shows them that you don't care about them. You obviously don't care about your property, so what are they probably not going to do? They're not going to care about you. They're not going to really care about your property. So doing prompt repairs and doing prompt maintenance keeps us in the good graces with our residents living in our properties, and we start off that in a better relationship. So as I'm looking through here, it's really not that bad. Obviously this is the first time I really kind of went through the house, but really it's just trash that they've left in here. Thankfully, I am grateful that they didn't. It looks like we have a broken window. That's probably the most serious thing, I guess, that I've seen since we've been here, but just part of it. So as we finish walking through the house, this is actually a pretty big house. Like, we typically don't buy houses with this many bedrooms, but this one came up, and this is one that we did buy on subject to financing. So it's a 5-bedroom, 2-bath. So there's a lot of bedrooms in here. So, and actually what period of time that we're in right now is here in Arizona anyways, what we have to do is once a tenant is evicted, if they haven't removed all of their items from the property, we actually, as the landlord, have to hire someone to come in and basically take pictures of all their stuff and doing inventory. And then at 14 days, if they haven't came in or contacted us to be able to come into the property and get this stuff removed out of here, then we basically just have to sell it, donate it, or trash it. So that's basically the period that we're in right now. We're about a week into that 14-day period, and we have, another week to go. So I'm hoping that, they do come back and they're able to get some of this stuff out of here, because there's some valuable stuff. I have no hard feelings towards the particular resident. They just put themselves in a bad situation. This particular story with this resident was they moved in here, they had a family member that they'd never lived with move in with them, and they didn't get along, so one of them ended up moving out. The other tenant, the tenant resident, wasn't able to keep paying the rent, so they refused to move out, so, we had to do what we had to do, which was get them evicted. Okay, so here's probably the most important point, which is why I saved the best for last, which number 5 is making sure that you have adequate reserves. If you are going to be a landlord, if you are going to own rental properties, whether it's a rental for a long-term hold or whether it's something you buy to Airbnb, you need to make sure that you have adequate reserves, because this type of stuff happens. Like we do our best to screen tenants, we do our best, the background checks, we do credit checks, we check for evictions, bankruptcies, we do all of those checks on the residents that are moving into our properties, but sometimes just stuff happens. Like we didn't know that the family member moving in with this particular family member weren't going to get along, and one of them was just going to leave and just basically abandon the property. But you know what? That's what happens. So you got to make sure that you're in a position to be able to carry the mortgage of the rental that you own for 3, 4, 5 months if you're able to evict in whatever state that you're in. Some states are crazy and you have to let them basically live there for a year before you can get them out. So you got to make sure whatever your local guidelines are or wherever you're buying your rentals, you need to understand what the laws are behind being able to evict people from your properties if they aren't paying. And then also repairs. What are you going to do if you get somebody moved into your property and then the AC goes out and you need to spend $5,000 on a brand new unit? Or what do you do if there's a storm and there's damage to the roof and you have to take care of it immediately? So you got to keep that in mind. And so for us specifically, what myself and my partner Pace did when we first started acquiring rentals was we like to have a decent conservative amount of money per rental. We liked about, depending on the property, this is very vague, but around $5,000 to $7,000 in reserves per property as we first started acquiring, so that we could be safe, that we're not going to put ourselves in a spot where we're like, oh crap, we're evicting a tenant, we have to do repairs, and we need to figure out how to get the money together. So super important to make sure that you don't put yourself in that position. That's where I see a lot of landlords get out of the game. They have one bad resident that moves into their property and they bleed them dry, and now they're just like, you know what, I'm done with real estate. But if you set yourself up and you have those reserves, you're going to be just fine. So, looks like they did a really good job at maintaining the pool. So this will obviously be one of the first things that we get taken care of and get cleaned up. And this property, stay tuned, it's on Des Moines Street. We're going to actually turn this into an Airbnb because we just don't want to deal with the tenant or resident situation in this particular area of town anymore. So we're going to turn it into an Airbnb. So stay tuned, I'll make another video probably here in the next couple months once we get it all staged and ready to go for Airbnb. Alright guys, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think we did the right thing in this situation? Do you think I'm a crappy landlord? Or do you think we did the right thing? Love to hear from you. If you got any value from the video as well, make sure to like, subscribe, and if you like videos on property management, let me know in the comments below as well. We'll see you in the next video.